Hi, everybody. It's another day of headlines, so let's get right to it. First off, we've got the anticipated Musk suing Media Matters. Now, what Media Matters is one of those media watchdog groups. They're often nonprofit, but especially in recent years, many people have accused such organizations like Media Matters of being biased, of trying to cancel certain people or organizations or websites because of extremist or their judgment of extremist material on it. However, this lawsuit seems to be a little crazy. They're claiming that Media Matters made up some of the information that they put out. I don't know. It's probably whatever Media Matters was saying about Twitter, which I'm still going to call Twitter. It's their right to have commentary on it, just as it's my right to add commentary to these sort of articles. So this is Musk he likes a lot of media drama, so I would chalk that up to media drama. Here we have that new president of Argentina. Everybody's going crazy about shock therapy libertarian. Many sites in the U.S. are screaming and yelling that he's alt-right or far-right. He might be. He's one of those guys that goes out in public and, and is criticizing wokeness, criticizing leftists who have infiltrated a lot of governments. We'll see what happens. Obviously, some of that's going to be stuff that's filtered through the neuroses of U.S. culture and U.S. media in the way they report on this person and maybe try to dismiss him. However, I would think if you lived in Argentina with their 140% a year inflation, you might have no choice but to vote for a person like this. And I can go ahead and make a prediction about what will happen. Any person who is as rabble-rousing as this person, he's going to make enemies, and they're going to try to get rid of him by court cases and legal cases against him, procedural problems that he would have that could disqualify him for president, and saying he's corrupt. And in many cases, all of these things might be true because this person is not a professional politician and probably is not used to walking through all the traps and niceties of the bureaucracy that are set up to trip up a person like him and maintain the status quo. So that's very interesting. This is a sort of rare article you don't see a lot. Washington blinks as debt costs begin to bite. U.S. has really dug itself into a hole, almost like Argentina itself. It prints and prints and prints an extra $1 trillion a year. It's done this over the past 20 years or so with both Republican and Democratic administrations in charge. Can't lay it at the feet of any party. It mentions here, even today, many people, both Republicans and Democrats, don't feel that the deficit or the national debt is a big deal. And both the current President Biden and Trump have refused to entertain cuts in Social Security and Medicare. There's more stuff about taxing the rich, and the article sort of ends up saying maybe Biden's got it under control. We'll see. But I wanted to point this out because we don't often see a lot in the U.S. press, a lot of worry about debt or deficit anymore. It's just understood that we're going to add another $1 trillion to our national debt every year, sometimes more. Here we have more of the stuff about the press likes to say the issue is Biden too old? And then they would bring up, well, of course he's not, because Trump's just a few years younger than he is. But of course, that's not the issue, and they know it. The issue is how Biden conducts himself in public, and whether a person who is somewhat senile at this point, whether such a person can run an effective presidential campaign next year. And in the last few days, as these articles about Biden's age have popped up, naturally they're counterbalanced against saying, well, Trump's just as bad and age is just a number. But as we talked about a little yesterday, it's really not about the numbers, it's about the conduct. Trump has said some weird things as well, but I don't know if it's because of age or his just disorganized, off-the-cuff thinking and talking. And I don't think many people are concerned about Trump's senility versus Biden's obvious senility. When we have China coming on strong with submarines. U.S. has had many decades where anybody can make a submarine, but to make a silent one that can dominate the seas, only the U.S. and some of its allies had that technology. So you can make something that goes underwater and has some diesel engines roaring away, but the U.S. had the top technology that could dominate that sphere. China's coming on strong. Something about Taylor Swift. Like most people who aren't a little girl, I'm not interested, but I have to admit she's got something, because there's some quality about her that causes people to go crazy, and you'd be a fool to write that off. Here's something in this movie I'd wanted to see, Napoleon. French don't even like themselves. This is some poor initial reviews. But if you see any of the pictures of Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon, I think you'd want to see it. It looks pretty spectacular, interesting, and Ridley Scott in charge of it. What else do we have? I knew I'd forgotten something. Usually I stick to the article subjects here on this page because they are alarmist sort of articles. But I did want to point this out as something. This is New York Times, and in the election cycle, sometimes we see certain news outlets that spin things one way or another. And I'm noticing articles like this in the press. Apparently overall of voters, especially younger people, they're concerned about inflation and the foreign wars and the deficit. So since most of the big media outlets are sort of left-leaning, they don't really want to connect those issues to the administration in power, the Biden administration, which they support. And I would even say a lot of people would support the Biden administration because they recoil at the chaos of a Trump administration. But in any event, we have these articles that are trying to explain to the voters, to the common people, that they're all wrong to be concerned about inflation, the deficit, and foreign wars. Things are great. Americans are angry and anxious, and not just about prices, but it shows, well, they're spending more. See, they're all mixed up. You're mixed up. And here we have this article, this lady saying, here's people feeling bad. It's because of social media. And I went past the point here. So here she goes. Says all the it's fine. If you're concerned about inflation or how expensive things in the store, you're just mistaken. So Unfortunately, this is a typical thing in the media these days. It does drive me crazy. And these sorts of articles are not even presented under the banner of an opinion piece. They're just news that you're confused about how good things really are under the present government. And I suppose it goes beyond that to say, if you want to change the government to something else or vote for somebody else, a protest vote for Trump, or just like the Javier guy in Argentina, the rabble rouser, you're very mistaken, because things are already good. Just settle down and accept the inflation. Here we have some things here about the Israel-Hamas Palestinian situation. I couldn't find out. The people in these articles, it's not this lady. There's apparently different people. New Yorker contributor. He was no, okay, not him. There's one funny thing here. Okay, we have Israel arrests an NBC journalist for glorifying Hamas attacks. And here we had, this is what I was looking for, some guy who was, I think there is too much lionization of the Nazis and Hitler, even in the negative way in our culture. So here we have, of course, Palestinian filmmaker who was, as they put it in this article, lauding Hitler. If you spend any time in the Middle East, I've spent some time in some of those countries, a lot of time in Egypt. That's not a very extreme viewpoint in a lot of those countries for just regular people. Here we have another thing that I've been mentioning. This is the idea that what's really happening in the Middle East, the attacks by Hamas into Israel, was really an outside influence from Iran, who supports those groups and has its own reasons to want to scuttle peace in the Middle East and the peace agreements that were almost going to be completed between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Israel has opened relations with a lot of other countries there. And if you take a step back with maybe the bigger picture to say, over all the decades of the Palestinian problems there, all of the attempts to try to settle it down have always been complicated by other outside countries and factors who have reasons that want to keep Israel off balance and not obtain that peace. So the Palestinians, I think, have found themselves pawns of these external power plays for quite a while. And this was Houthi. This is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, this is obviously from Yemen. Some fantastic pictures of a raid on a ship in the Red Sea where they took it hostage. Such things are not that uncommon. We all remember the Somalia pirates situation. This is, I don't know. I just, whenever I hear about Yemen, this is the area in the south of the Arabian Peninsula. Saudi Arabia has been conducting a huge, some would say, genocidal war for quite a time now. Probably not read about it in newspapers. Not really that interested in that. Newspapers are more interested in Musk filing a lawsuit. But anyway, we have this stuff going on in Yemen, and Yemen is one of the most interesting cultural and natural places in the world, with all kinds of incredible, unique flora and fauna, especially on its outlying islands. It's always been on my bucket list to go there, but I doubt in my lifetime I'll be able to. It's a disaster area because of the war and the unsettled nature of it at present. What else? Just checking if I'm still recording. We have these crazy things happening with these conservative media figures. she sort of came out against Israel, and now the conservative groups are slamming her. This whole kind of person, and we have a right-wing or left-wing media organizations that right on the surface tell you they're going to give you this biased news on one side or another. And they're not interested in convincing anyone to come to their cause who's on the other side. They're just going to scream and shout. I do think this is a new kind of silo of media that has really thrown a wrench into the public's ability to be informed properly. I don't like it whether it's on the left or the right. We had Rosalind Carter dying yesterday. We mentioned that. Here was I had seen this. See, they were before Trump filed his lawsuits. They were already dunking on him for not following through, but he did. I noted this guy. I always wonder these young or youngish guys, he's 39, but who are able to live this lifestyle and have all this money and somehow be it all a possible fraud. I don't know. I've never even been near these kind of levels of money. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. We have dogs seen eating human body parts at possible clandestine burial site. So if I were in America, and talk to other Americans, you'd say, one guess of what country we're talking about? We know it's Mexico, because that's a country that's struggling with this wave of violence that they're attempting to address. You see, it's like the U.S. in the 1920s with Al Capone and the Tommy guns and all this sort of stuff. Mexico is going through this as they're confronting this established crime in their culture. New dating phenomenon. Young people don't want to get married. Social media has destroyed them. Now, I just wanted to go down and show you this. Apparently now, it's necessary when you're dating someone to immediately bring up politics, the patriarchy, climate change, racial injustices, rising wealth gap on the first date or even earlier. See, everybody's got to be vetted that they have the right opinions on certain things. So I always just wonder about this. People who play this stuff out in public. If this were all true, why say it out in public unless you're trying to damage the other person? I always think very often when one person leaves a relationship and you have a bad situation, they don't just leave, they want to burn the other person down when they go. I don't like these stuff played out with famous people in the media. Thanksgiving food orgy. These are these new obesity drugs that are wild. If that apparently they work well, and people who used to be fat can just eat. I used to be about 40 pounds heavier, and for years I struggled, and eventually I just fasted a lot, got on the carnivore diet, suffered to get down to the weight I am, and still suffer to remain here. So I feel it's sort of unfair. They invented a pill so other people don't even have to do that. It sort of takes away my accomplishment. What else do we have? Office landlords can't get loans anymore. This is COVID has created a situation where people worked at home. You have the Zoom calls, and people realized, I don't need to have an expensive office in town. we can work anywhere. And this has really hurt the real estate, the commercial real estate market in a lot of big cities. Those big cities are becoming unlivable in the U.S. anyway because of the high crime and the looting. We have this guy here, a little older than I am, Jeff Zucker. This was a guy who was previously ran NBC. Remember when that Conan O'Brien thing happened and he was on at the night show and then taken off and Leno got back. Then Zucker went over to CNN. He got pushed out of there. Now he's putting together a deal for all these newspapers, the Daily Telegraph and the Spectator. I think those are both very right-leaning ones. Am I right or am I wrong? Should have looked that up. But the point was, how do these guys do it over and over again? You know, and then once you do it and you've run these big companies, I guess investors will just put their money to you, give the money to you, and you'll get these organizations to run and bring back and monetize and make big money. Again, when I read about this, it makes me feel like I haven't been trying hard enough. I suppose, like everybody else, I will mention this. This was the epic bomb of all the Disney films this year, I think, except for Guardians of the Galaxy. And now we have one of the biggest bombs of all time with the Marvels, obviously trying to give people what they don't want, but what they should want in terms of, as they say, representation. There's a lot of other excuses. All of that stuff is public posturing. You can be sure behind closed doors, they're being more frank about what has happened in the media industry in the past year. What else do we have? Zelensky survived 5 assassination attempts. See, here's Ukraine doesn't pop up in the news that much very often like it did. It was thrown off the front pages by the war in the Middle East. And more sort of alarmist stuff. Alarmist Putin plots to test new apocalypse Satan II nuclear missile over the South Pole. This is more rabble-rousing by Russia. Saber-rattling, I would say. So, anyway, those are the headlines today, and this is also a headline for me. This is my novel. It's called There Are Still Unknown Places. It's a story of people living and working in a concrete Asian city, extremely modern, also very traditional, that's changing all the time. It's about all of our hopes and our dreams and our yearnings as we go here and we go there to find ourselves and find our hope in this modern world. It's on Amazon and Kindle. If you want to read it, get it there and let me know what you thought. Now I'm going to have my daily Art of War cards here. Let's change this. So this is Art of War, and it has one little Art of War maxim on it every day. And this is a good one. This is good advice. Live to fight another day. Retain your potential to act in the future by escaping or evading your adversary. The basis of that, escape and invasion, keeps the possibility of victory alive. So keep one step ahead of them. Plan ahead. And that reminds me an article I missed here. This one. Successful people have more productive paranoia than most. This is fascinating because we don't always want to have positive thoughts in our head. We want to make sure that we sometimes imagine what could go wrong because we could prepare for that. Just a few weeks ago, the famous basketball coach in the U.S., Bobby Knight, died. And he had a book, I think it was called Negative Thinking. So you're not supposed to have negative thinking. But yes, he promoted negative thinking because it makes you plan ahead for every eventuality, so you're ready to always land on your feet. So that's good. Sometimes when something keeps you awake all night with your stomach gurgling, sometimes your mind is telling you need to do something different. You need to change your job. You need to go here. You need to go there. And sometimes you just have that urge. There is no solution, really. There's no answer to that question, but your mind, your body, some part of you is still telling you need to go and make a change in your life. So until next time, those are the headlines for today, and I will see you tomorrow.